We actually are here today at the center because we want to write the manifesto for women, incarcerated women. We each have our own viewpoint, our own perspective. I'm an indicted woman. You may have seen Topeka. Topeka is formerly incarcerated and now works in that sphere like few others on the planet. And then Beth.
I got thrown in jail a bunch, so
Part of the reason why I'm so attracted to doing work in prisons, especially with women, is there's something about the demographic of women that is real. And for me, that's the marker. The marker isn't, are you good? The marker is, are you real? You know, in this big theater of life, I would much rather interact with a person I know is real and I can feel them than somebody who is acting good because you don't know who they will be in the fire.
Thinking about like freedom and where you are before even going inside of a prison, many of us are walking around being imprisoned,
right,
because of circumstances or experiences that we may have all went through that we then allow that to imprison us.
Right.
Like I talked to them yesterday about being a survivor and not a victim.
Right.
And what that looked like for me, whether it was through, sexual trauma and violence, whether it was through, abuse, emotional abuse, different things that I utilize all of those as power.
That's it.
Right, in order to begin to move in a certain way, right? Whether it's women who are incarcerated, it's women who are impoverished, and that's whether physical poverty, emotional poverty, mental poverty,
right.
That it is community, right, led by women that are going to change that.
I do too. If we wanted to start a movement of women, what would we want and what would we need? Well, you would need women who weren't necessarily bought into the narrative, who had a certain amount of power, who were willing to break through known boundaries in a certain way. There's a whole series of things where you have a ready-made potential. You just need to take the potential and guide it toward creative power and toward a vision. What if we take these women and we just show them tools, and if they want it, they want it. If they don't, they don't. You would have an unstoppable, absolutely unstoppable army of women. We already have the access. We already have the connection. And then we just give the tools to galvanize the women in a way to come together and interact. Just take like the forgotten and the disposed of, and then you just access all of that power. It's beautifully symbolic that those women who are incarcerated become the leaders of the free movement.
In the United States, we've thrown everyone in jail. We've got these huge numbers of incarcerated people, and the medicine is there.
Yeah.
And is coming back and rolling back out on all of our civilization. I love it. And I think it's what the place deserves. It is to show, too, that all the things that you chase and denigrate and cage is actually bringing you great gifts that you can't see.
They're the most resilient because they're carrying the discarded shadow. I think it would heal the entire planet if what one threw away came back to be the medicine.
Are incarcerated people the daemon for the people on the outside? Is that a huge part of their daemon?
Yes.
So it would make sense they would bring out maximum creativity, maximum power, maximum insight.
That's right. I mean, that's what we found in our letters. It was insane. The amount of engagement. You just press these women and it is like a ripe plum. The juice just flows. The letters would just flow. The poems would just flow. The ideas would just flow. You didn't have to do anything.
We give them the permission.
Yeah.
Right? And so often that permission is taken away. Right? A lot of times when a person finds themselves incarcerated is because they have not been empowered to use their voice. I'm so grateful because being around all of you, even in my power, has even empowered me more. Things that typically I would just sit on, just say, I'm not going to speak about this. I'm not going to let this out. I'm just going to hold on. I'm like, no, Like, I'm going to speak on this. I'm going to go ahead of it. And it feels good. And what happens is it actually makes other people uncomfortable.
Right.
When we are imprisoned, again, whether inside of a physical prison or in community in prison, it is because we are muted. And
Beautiful,
for you,
because we are muted.
right? And because for you and, this idea of being a sexual woman, I think, we are, as women, period, we are already looked at as sexual.
Right.
Whether we understand that or not.
Right.
Right? And so when you go into prison, that's why the things they teach us, like knitting and crocheting.
Right.
It's like, this is the way you are supposed to be as a woman,
Really?
No, really. And I was like, what is knitting and crocheting going to do with me? Right? All these ideas and things I wanted to create, and they said, we don't do this here. I paid somebody with commissary to do my knitting project. And so I said, all you are is perpetuating criminal thinking. Helping me to grow. It wasn't, right? Because they're forcing me to be and do something that is not comfortable for me. It's not who I am. But they, even inside of this construct, they're telling me as a woman, and so I had wrote a letter, said, shut up and knit. You realize what people are imposing upon you, and you feel or you gain the power in order to use your voice.
That's right.
That's when things are changing. Prisons are where people are still, right? There's a level of stillness. And so when you think about like meditation, you think about, having a moment to yourself to reflect, that's the time when you can start to hear right? Your inner voice.
Right.
And so having and getting a person that is, open and vulnerable to learning is the greatest time, because to your point, the brilliance is already there.
Yeah, everything is a reframe, right? So you can begin to look at prisons as the population of people who couldn't pretend. There's a group of people who have been pre-selected and pre-approved for not being able to pretend. That's one of my definitions of power. The raw power is this self that will not be pushed down or diminished, even by me, to myself. There are people who are learning how to get in touch with that real self. I think all people want to be real, and all people want to do well.
When you are in a place of darkness, which are prisons, there is no light. I don't care if you walk around the track like I did 10 miles a day. There still is no light. That light is within. There are certain places that, you go and you never get to see the day of light. And how does a person actually function in that? Is from going within.
Right.
And if you are consistently staying in a state of victimhood or trauma, and not that we don't all experience these things, these are experiences which to me are external, right? Because I believe like we're spirits and, this is just a thing. Our bodies are a thing. That if we're staying there, that we are going to always stay there.
The identity of trauma, the identity of victimhood is the punishment for having been harmed. It's the self-punishment. Taking on that identity, that's punishing yourself because you were harmed before. You don't have to do that.
That's good, yeah.
That's a crime right there.
No, right.
That's the crime.
Yeah.
Because within that identity are pre-built knobs and levers of defeat, discouragement, resignation, that, I can't, is built into that identity. So it's the way you perpetuate the original harm that was done to you. Don't do that. I think incarcerated women represent women. And the permanent stance of apology that we live in, it's just magnified.
Yes.
It's just, and then the mass accommodation that you make for even existing.
Yes.
I'm so sorry I exist. And in some way, those women, and without a doubt, this woman has said, no, I won't live in that stance of apology. That is what's so transgressive. That is what's so offensive, is I will not live in that stance of apology as a woman.
But when you fully inhabit it, what happens is, one, you become the power source for other women, but two,
that's where you get the bow that you're looking for by accommodating. You know, we were on a call, I heard somebody talking to you saying, talking about her saying, I don't know why it is. I would just do anything Topeka asked me, ever. I don't even have to ask. I don't even know what she asked me to do, but I'm here because she suggested it. There is a certain kind of power in inhabiting that location. And I think as women, we've been trained to try to accommodate to get it, to try to demand to get it, to demand our rights, to do all of these things rather than the one thing there is to do, and that you exhibit so beautifully, and that's just to rise in your own power exactly as it is without any apology or any kind of conformity. And then that's the only time a woman gets the power that she's looking to have.